You think you know quiet. You don't know quiet until you're 19 years old, humping 80 pounds of gear through the A Shau Valley, and the birds stop singing. It was 68. We were moving toward a ridge line we called the Knuckle. No real name for it on the maps, just coordinates and bad news. The heat was a physical weight, like wearing a wet wool blanket in a sauna. You sweat so much you stopped smelling like a person and started smelling like copper and rot. We had been walking for 6 hours. My boots were disintegrating, jungle rot eating my toes. I was staring at the back of Jenkins' helmet, counting the scratches on it just to keep my brain from sliding off. Then the point man, his kid from Detroit named Miller, just stopped. Raise of a hand, fist, freeze. We all dropped. You don't ask why. You just hit the dirt and pray the mud covers you. For 2 minutes, nothing happened. Just the sound of your own heart hammering against your ribs, loud enough you think Charlie can hear it 3 clicks away. A mosquito landed on my eyelid. I didn't blink. I swear to God, I would have let it drink me dry before I moved a muscle. Then the jungle just erupted. Green tracers. They look like fireflies until they start chewing up the trees above your head. Wood splinters raining down like confetti. The noise isn't a bang, it's a physical slap against your ears. Crack thump, crack thump. I didn't see a single enemy soldier, not one. I just saw muzzle flashes from the tree line and fired at the light. You squeeze the trigger, the M16 bucks against your shoulder, and you scream something. I don't even know what I was yelling, probably just noise to drown out the fear. Jenkins took a round in the leg, screamed for a medic. Doc was crawling over to him, sliding through the mud like a snake, ripping open a morphine syringe with his teeth. It lasted maybe 4 minutes. Then, just as fast as it started, it stopped. The smoke hung there, blue and heavy, smelling like sulfur and burnt leaves. Nobody cheered. Nobody said, "We got 'em." We just lay there, ears ringing, waiting for the second wave that never came. I lit a cigarette with shaking hands. The flame from my Zippo looked impossibly bright in the gloom. Jenkins was moaning low, "Mama, Mama," over and over. He made it home eventually, lost the leg, though. That's the thing about the NAM. It wasn't always big battles. It was hours of boredom and heat, followed by 5 minutes where you were sure the world was ending, and then back to the boredom, except now your hands won't stop shaking. You asked for the real story? You don't get the R&R in Saigon story. You get what happened after the shooting stopped, because that's when the real war started inside your head. We were 5 clicks from the Knuckle. We couldn't stay where we were. That ambush site was a kill zone waiting for a second pass, but we couldn't move Jenkins easily. The round had shattered his femur. The lieutenant got on the radio. He was calling for a dust-off, a medevac. The problem with the A Shau was the canopy, trees 200 feet tall, woven together like a basket. There was nowhere for a Huey to land. We had to clear an LZ with machetes and C4, while Doc tried to keep Jenkins from going into shock. Every swing of a machete sounded like a dinner bell for the NVA. We were working fast, sweating that copper sweat again, eyes constantly scanning the green wall around us. You start seeing shapes in the leaves. You start seeing faces in the bark. And that bird finally came in. It was the most beautiful, terrifying thing I'd ever seen. The pilot was insane, coming down through a hole in the trees barely bigger than his rotors. The noise was unbelievable. The prop wash flattened the elephant grass and kicked up a storm of red mud and debris. It felt like it was trying to blow you off the face of the earth. We loaded Jenkins on a litter. The door gunner was just staring at the tree line, his M60 tracked and ready. I caught Jenkins' eye just before they lifted him in. The morphine had hit him. His eyes were glassy, like doll's eyes. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking through me, back to Ohio or wherever he was from. Then they were gone, and the silence came back. But it was different now. It smelled like aviation fuel and spilled blood. We were down one man, low on ammo, and the sun was starting to drop, and we still had to get to the Knuckle. The LT decided we'd push another 2 clicks and set up a night defensive perimeter. We moved in the twilight, every shadow stretched out, looking like a crouching soldier. You haven't experienced dark until you spent a night under triple canopy jungle with no moon. You can't see your hand in front of your face. You move by holding the ruck strap of the guy in front of you. It's a conga line of blind, terrified men. We set up in a tight circle. Nobody spoke. You couldn't smoke. The cherry of a cigarette could get you killed. You couldn't swat the mosquitoes that were practically carrying you away. I was on second watch, 02 to 04, the dead hours. You sit there in a shallow hole, staring into the black. Your mind starts playing tricks on you. The bushes start moving. Was that a footstep or just an animal? At one point, about 3 a.m., Miller, the point man from Detroit, he was in the foxhole next to me. He leaned over and whispered, so quiet I almost didn't hear him. "You hear them?" he said. I listened. I didn't hear anything but the jungle. "Hear what, Miller?" I said. "They're whispering," he said. "They're right out there, whispering my name." I looked at him in the dark. I could just make out the whites of his eyes. They were wide, unblinking. He wasn't screwing around. He believed it. The pressure cooker was cracking him. "Shut up, Miller," I whispered back. "Ain't nobody out there but tigers and ghosts." I don't know if I believed it myself. We sat there for the rest of the watch, M16 safety off, waiting for the whispers to turn into screaming. They never did, that night. Morning came. We were stiff, wet, and running on adrenaline fumes. We saddled up and pushed the final 3 clicks to the Knuckle. We expected another ambush. We expected to fight for every inch up that ridge. We got to the top around 1000 hours, and you know what we found? Nothing. Well, not nothing. We found a bunker complex big enough for a company of NVA regular army. Sleeping quarters, kitchens, ammo storage dug 6 feet deep into the red clay. It was a ghost town. But here's the kicker. In the kitchen area, there were pots of rice that were still warm. There were cigarette butts on the ground that hadn't been rained on yet. They'd been there, maybe 2 hours before we arrived. They probably watched us set up our perimeter the night before. They knew we were coming, and they just melted away. That was the most frustrating thing. You get ambushed, you lose a friend, you spend a night terrified of the dark, you hump up a mountain ready to die, and the enemy just isn't there. It made you feel useless, like you were just chasing shadows and bleeding for geography nobody gave a damn about. We called it in. Command told us to blow the bunkers and RTB, return to base. We spent the afternoon rigging C4. We blew the top off that ridge, made a hell of a noise. Felt good to blow something up, I guess. Little payback against the dirt. We walked back out the next day. The helicopter picked us up at a different LZ. When we got back to base camp, there was cold beer and mail from home. Miller sat on his bunk cleaning his rifle for 3 hours straight, not talking to anyone. I drank 4 beers and passed out. I woke up in the middle of the night, reaching for my rifle because a fan in the corner sounded like a Huey coming in. You asked for the real story? That's it. There's no big moral, no grand victory. Jenkins lost a leg, Miller lost his mind a little bit. We all lost something in that valley. You walk out of the jungle, you get on the freedom bird back to the world, you get a job, you raise a family, you think you left the quiet behind. But sometimes, when it's late and the house is totally silent, I can still hear that bird singing just before it stopped, and I'm 19 again, waiting for the world to explode.